I'll have to check the exact number.
Right,
Mr.
but it
Sen.
started in
But I don't
2007
think it's
to-
10 times or 12. It's less than that.
It's 6 months.
6 months and then
Okay,
the
in
rollover
2008.
again.
Okay, so 2008 up to now, that's 6 years times 2. So that's 12 times you've rolled it over already.
We'll have to check. I think the authority was given later after
Yeah,
2008.
but anyway, every 6 months they have to go back to you. The Land Bank and the DVP has to go back to you. In the meantime, Sobre Peña was laughing his head off because he knew that the government didn't have common shares. So he went, this was in 2012, he went to Manny Pangilinan and said, I cannot sell you these shares, but I will sell you the rights to buy these shares in 2025. In other words, he still had the rights now to buy 49% of the common stock of MRT. And under the bylaws, you could not even add a single cab unless you had the common shares. So that's why the problem now, I agree with the Secretary, let's get DBP and Land Bank out of the hole that they find themselves in. But that's not going to give you any power. That's not going to give you the power to expand the MRT. That's why legally, tama yung MRT holdings. They're suing the government because they're saying, wait, I have majority of the common shares, or I have the rights to the majority of common shares. And I think you have to do a deal with Manny Pangilinan's group, because there's no other way you can take control of MRT without buying those common shares. The preferred shares are non-voting. The preferred shares, you know what the par value of the preferred shares were? The total paid up for the preferred shares was $100 divided by 10,000 shares. That was 1 cent per. Pero kung may butal, ang estimate ng Penta Capital, they could have as much as $54 million in 2025. And that's how they would divide it by the holders of the preferred shares, or what they call the preference shares. So right now, Mr. Secretary, I'm suggesting you do a deal with you don't have to spend the 54 billion. Of course, kawawa naman ang DBP at Land Bank, no? But you don't really have to spend the 54 billion to take control. You have to do a deal with the owner of the common stock.
So that is the point, Mr. Chairman. There is a 54 billion item in the budget, and we were hearing the Secretary that that money would be used to pay the Land Bank and the DBP. Kung mga 35 yun, may butal ka pang 19. And the Secretary said that they would still buy additional bonds in the market. Yes.
Secretary, can you please respond to what Senator Osmeña said and to the query of Senator Recto, please?
And how will any of this now help the riding public?
Mr. Chair, the objective of DOTC is to unwind this BLT. And therefore, the reason for the 54 billion is to, one, take it off the books of Land Bank and DBP, and also be able to purchase control, no? Including from the Metro Pacific Group if necessary, and we've had preliminary discussions with them. No? And then once that's we unwind the BLT, I think the plan of DOTC is to reconfigure the arrangement so that one, the connection between the other MRTs is more seamless, no? And the contract aligned with the current contracts that we've been giving to the PPPs in this area.
Secretary, sir, ba't kawawa ang Land Bank at DBP if they're earning 15%
They're
from
not
these
earning
bonds?
15%. I told you they bought this at market. As a matter of fact, they overpaid for it. See, it might look like the coupon rate is 15%, but if the market is now at
Correct,
7.5%, you have to pay me double.
They pay the premium for it.
Right.
And-
But
and
what
so
I'm
that is-
saying is, to save the government cash, we can just keep on getting the BSP to keep on renewing that. Later, when we have the money, we can buy and pay the 54 billion. But right now, first get the common stock.
No, that's precisely my point. Pwede namang you've been doing it for the past so many years. Kung 12 times man o 10 times.
2009, di ba?
Mr. Chair, that's why it's in the unprogrammed portion of the budget. It will be triggered once there is extra.
No, but if we're spending on it, as Senator Recto, Secretary, and Senator Osmeña said, at the end of the day, we want to improve the service we are providing the public. This will not improve the service in any way.
Not.
It may clean the books of DBP and Land Bank, but how will it improve the service?
Once the contract is restructured, no, then I think we will be able to expand it easier without the handcuffs that we have under the present setup, and then make the connections more seamless with the other.
Can you
rail-
reconfigure the contracts without first touching the economic interest? Because at the end of the day, again, you have to get common shares and not the economic interest. Even if you have 100% of the economic interest, how will that help you reconfigure?
Sir, the plan is to acquire, including not only the economic interest but also the legal interest. That is the plan.
You're
That's
talking
why-
common shares.
Everything, sir. That's why we've been in discussions with, preliminary discussions with the Metro Group.
And then I presume you will reprivatize this
Under the
under
current-
better terms?
Yes, under the current terms that we use for O&M of the train system that we recently bidded out.
So, kung yung budget na hinihiling nyo sa program fund is to purchase the remaining balance of the economic interest, both from Land Bank and yung mga naliligaw pa doon, when will you acquire the common shares? What you call the legal interest in the company, and how much would that take?
Well, obviously that will depend on the negotiations, but that is ongoing as we speak, Mr. Chair.
It has been going on for quite some time actually. Even GMA tried to do that during her term, apparently with not much success.
Well, we believe that we have some inroads into a potential solution to this issue.
You wanted to say something, Commissioner Inares?
Yeah, I think the whole problem is because of this uncertainty in the ownership structure, who owns what, who controls what, the government is having problem improving MRT3. So even if we say we don't want to resolve this, even if we want to spend for MR3, we were being brought to Supreme Court for a TRO, we cannot spend it. So the getting control is important as of this point to be able to improve the MRT3 infrastructure. In the sense that even if we believe that we can spend for it, we can improve it, these other people keep on bringing us to court.
But if you're in negotiations with them, Secretary Purisima, why do they keep on suing us? I mean, if you're talking to them, if you're already in negotiations, why do they keep on suing government?
I think they have the answer, not me, because. But our hope, no, is that we're able to move forward in the next 12 months on this.
Okay, so finally,
Mr. Chair?
Mr.
After
Chairman.
the indulgence. Just
Sure,
for
sure.
confirmation,
Okay.
yung pagbayad ho natin ng 54 billion will not improve the services of MRT. Am I correct? Will not. Will not.
Mr. Chair, it's a part of a process to get to that point. No, if we don't move, nothing will happen, and that is why we have to see this through. And to see this through, we need to unfortunately buy out the remaining interest, both economic and legal. That's no longer ours. And after that, we will restructure the whole thing. But even before that, the government is doing its best to expand the capacity as well as improve the maintenance.
Chair, and sa palagay nyo, by paying 54 billion is the first step toward us getting better services for MRT.
Wala pa.
It's really not the first step. It's probably among the last steps, no? Because the first step was taken many years ago. No? We can just do nothing, no, and leave it as it is. But I don't think that's the right thing to do. The best thing to do really is see this through and improve the situation. No? So we inherited this situation.
Mr.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, may I just
Senator
ask
Espana.
two questions to clarify? The 54 billion is going to be paid to DBP and Land Bank. In other words, those are both government banks, and so government, in essence, controls the economic rights to the tune of what? 80% of the economic rights, right?
If it's the 54, the hope is that that's 100% of the.
Okay, so it's
Yeah,
100
including the legal,
all right.
yeah.
What will that get you in terms of rights? Nothing.
Sir, the plan is to include the legal, because I think the assumption is that we're just focused on the economic. We want to get both the economic and the legal.
So that's
Yeah.
that's a very good intention on your part.
Yeah.
But all you have to do is buy the common shares. And it's not going to cost you 54 billion to buy the common shares. It might cost you 1 or 2 or 3 billion depending upon how well you negotiate it.
But we will not be able to unwind it, sir, without getting the balance of the economic
The economic-
interest.
Yes, you're talking only about what, 20% left?
20%, yeah.
Hey, so buy that, but not
Yeah.
it's not going to cost you 54 billion.
There's 35 billion that's already incurred. That's in
Okay.
the books of DBP and
That's right.
Land Bank. So plus the balance.
In other words, what I'm saying, you don't have to pay DBP and Land Bank or buy them out right away. So you can save that 35 billion.
That
Use
is
the 15 billion to buy the 20%
That is the plan,
balance.
sir. In fact, we did not put it in the main part
Wala
of
ba?
the budget. It's in the unprogrammed part of the budget because we know that we do have flexibility in terms of when, of course, with the indulgence of Governor Tatango.
The governor will always roll that over. He's
Thank
a
you
very-
for yours.
He's
Thank
a
you for your
Filipino,
support,
he's
Mr.
a
Senator.
nationalist, and he's a patriot, and he will keep on rolling
Mr.
that over.
Chairman, the reason has been given to support the request for this rollover a number of times was that the market was not conducive to the to the sale of the bonds, because as Senator Rosmeño was saying, the market had already moved, and it is to the disadvantage of whoever will buy it if he buys it at the current price.
Governor, in effect, what is the YTM for that today?
YTM, we'll have to compute that just to be precise.
So it's below market.
No, it's above market.
No, today.
No, it is at market.
Yeah, no, I understand. It
So
is
I
at
don't
market,
accept
yes.
the answer that, the yield is bad. The yield is whatever the yield it is today, and you're not gonna get. As a matter of fact, the other holders of the 20%, they're banks. It's Bank of PI, Union Bank, etc. Because people had originally used this as collateral for their loans or dacion en pago. See?
But they got a better deal.
Of course, they got a better
Than-
deal. That's
than
why they don't
Land
want to
Bank.
sell it.
Precisely.
They will not sell it
So
to you
the
at
20% got a better deal.
Yeah.
In effect, the reason why the BSP wants them to unload is because they got a bad deal. Land Bank and DBP.
The main reason, Mr. Chairman, is that this is because of the economic benefit that's attached to the bonds. This is in effect an equity investment by these two banks, which is an investment in a non-financial allied undertaking, which is not within the authority of a universal bank.
But you can keep on giving, on rolling over those permission, that exemption for
We have,
another 6 months.
we have rolled it 8 times, just for the record. Not 12.
Yes, so finally, Mr. Chairman, the point is, we have spent 35 billion, we're discussing 54 billion now, and the operations of MRT is not getting any better. In fact, it seems to be getting worse. And now we have had experience already with BOT or BLT in this case. Marami tayo na sa pipeline na PPP, Mr. Secretary. Okay? I did file a resolution to look into some of these PPP projects. And the reason for that is simple, Mr. Secretary. Meron tayong mga binid na PPP. Ang gobyerno humingi ng premium sa bidding. Okay? Then they will still construct these projects. Upfront, nabayaran ng gobyerno. Okay? Then they will construct, the private sector will construct these projects. Do we honestly believe na hindi nila sisingilin ng user later on?
Well, first, sir, let me...
What guarantees do we have here in Congress?
Let me clarify.
Na baka mamaya, the point, Secretary, is this, baka mamaya, 10 years from now, we have the same problems
Yeah.
with LRT1, your Cebu Airport, ano pa ba? NLEX, SLEX connector, SLEX PAGCOR connector. Baka paulit-ulit na tayo dito niyan, at malalaking pera itong pinag-uusapan natin.
Sir, clarify a couple of things, sir. First, we did not ask for a premium. In fact, we were offering a subsidy. But because the way we do it now, there is competition, they competed. And instead of taking the subsidy, in several cases, in the contracts we bidded out, they offered to pay the government. Second, unlike the contracts that were in the past, which were unsolicited and practically, as I said, a sweetheart deal, this has fixed contract terms and has very specific performance standards. Now, in fact, if you call a hearing, Mr. Senator, we would be happy to show you the changes that we've done in terms of the terms of these new PPPs that we've been rolling out on a solicited basis. So we're comfortable that learning from the experience such as this one, that we will be able to have a better...
Yes, Secretary, I understand where you're coming from, no? And yes, I'm looking forward to a hearing on this issue as well, no? But the fact remains that we did receive premiums. Instead of us subsidizing certain construction activities so that later on, bumaba ang presyo para sa user at consumer. Ito, nakikita ko na, as early as now, I hope I am wrong, but pagdating ng araw, mangyayari yan, sa tingin ko, tataas ang presyo to the user and to the consumer. Yung private sector, I agree that the private sector is important and they're the ones who should generate the jobs in this country. At the same time, there's so much money in the system that they need to make these investments. I agree totally. Nevertheless, the problem is, like I said, iilan lang ang nagbibid sa mga project na yan. They're the same, almost the same people bidding for the same projects, no? And the fact remains that premiums have been paid, and these are huge amounts as well, no? So it necessarily would follow that they would want to get a return on those investments as well. So I will not belabor the point because that's already outside of this, no? The budget that we're discussing, and I look forward to the hearings on this later on. And I only mentioned that in relation to the MRT as well. No? So here you have a situation, just to repeat, 54, it's good that we had this discussion with Senator Osmeña present as well. Meron tayong 54 billion dito. Siguro we have enough time between now until December or November, before passing the budget, to know clearly what are we going to do with this. And remember, I pointed out earlier that the budget is not 2606. It is 2606 plus the 125. Part of that 125 is 54 billion in the end program. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Senator Recto. Senator Bina is recognized. Ma'am, you may proceed and good afternoon.
Good afternoon po. First po, I would like to thank Secretary Abad for submitting the documents that I previously requested during the DAP hearing. Ang gusto ko lang malaman, Secretary Abad, can you explain further itong grassroots participatory budgeting?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as we vigorously pursue the government's poverty reduction program, and as we grow the economy, it becomes really more and more important for us to be able to involve the communities and their local government units in that process. Because as we grow the economy, the national government is also tasked with many other functions, and it's not in a position to do many of the things that naturally local communities are able to do. For example, the construction of a barangay health center. Where do you locate that? Who will construct that? That's really a concern of local communities. So it's really important then to be able to enable local communities and their local government units, as well as their organized citizenry, to be part of the development process. Unfortunately, as they stand right now, many of the communities are not well organized, and many of the local government units do not have the capacity to undertake these projects, especially the poorer municipalities and barangays. So that's why this administration thought of a process by which we can begin to empower these communities by making them participants in the government's poverty reduction program, as well as making them more capable to undertake them. So the reason for the grassroots participatory budgeting program, Mr. Chairman.
Itong programa na to was started what year?
It was started 2 years ago, so that should be 2013.
At magkano ho yung, when you started this in 2013?
It started with about 900 and 650. It started with 609 target LGUs with a budget of 8.4 billion, Mr. Chairman.
And then 2014 ho, you increased it to 20 billion.
Yes, because the number of targeted LGUs increased to 1,233 with a budget of, that's correct, 20 billion, Mr. Chairman.
And for 2015, ano ho yung target number of
We're looking at 1,634 LGUs with a bigger, slight increase in its budget, about 20.9 billion, Mr. Chairman.
And then, which government agencies will be involved in this
Well,
budgeting process?
it depends on the nature of the projects. If they are agricultural development projects, then the Department of Agriculture. If they are Department of Health, then Department of Health. But there is an executive committee that oversees this whole process, and its members include the National Anti-Poverty Commission, which is really tasked to do the poverty mapping of these municipalities and cities, and then the DSWD, where many of the projects are really involve social services, and the Department of Interior and Local Government, since we are dealing with cities and municipalities.
So, paano yung proseso? Yung PO, how do you begin the process? Yung, ano ba, the POs, NGOs will submit a project study or...
Well, there is first of all, there is a criteria for qualifying projects, which is determined ahead of ahead of time. Maybe we can also show the slide. So the first step is the communities through their organized groups. They can be parent-teachers association or farmers association. They self-select the representatives through an inclusive into an assembly, and then the LGUs together with the CSO representatives identify priority poverty reduction projects through a planning workshop. And then the projects proposed are reviewed and validated by the national government if they fall within their priorities. And then subsequently, funding is provided in the proposed national budget, Mr. Chairman.
Paano yung accreditation process niyo for CSOs?
It's the DSWD, which has been tasked under the GAA to do the accreditation together with the National Anti-Poverty Council.
Secretary, can you provide the committee listing of all the CSOs or POs approved for GPB?
Yes, we can do that, Mr. Chairman.
Tapos, paano ho yun? Ano, is money given to the NGOs?
Well, if the community, the most ideal situation is if, for example, a local organization of the community is the one that undertakes the project and therefore receives the budget, as in the case of the Kalahi Seeds project, where the communities themselves receive the money and implement the project. But that is not the case for many of them. So the next likely recipient agency will be the local government unit.
Siguro
And-
para mas concrete, since total, it's been 2 years that you're running this program. For example, let's say isang LGU from, siguro Cavite na
Yeah.
recipient netong programa na to. Siguro, can you, para ikwento nyo yung proseso na, kunyari, did it start na si CSO, tapos si LGU, they did the project study, tapos ano yan, sinabit ho ba yan? Which agency do you submit it? Which agency approves it? Paano
Well,
yung,
for example,
Pero let's baka kung pwede yung i-step by
Pwede
step
siyang
na yung process.
the initiative can come from, let's say, a very active mayor, or it can come from an NGO in the community.
So, hindi yung requirement na NGO. It can be
Yeah, what is
through a
re-
mayor, a
what is-
local official.
Yeah, what is required is that there has to be a consultation. You know, the local CSO in the community and the local government unit, like the municipal council, they have to agree on the project because the CSO has to sign into the project.
May menu ho ba kayong which projects that
Yes, there's a menu of poverty reduction projects.
Mr. Chair, can
Basta-
we get the copy kasi parang ang hirap, I can't read it anymore.
It's in the, I think the presentation of Secretary Abad is in the copy distributed to the members, but let me interject. Secretary, actually, tanong ko na yan last year eh. If it is BUB, bottoms up budgeting, or grassroots participatory budgeting, the logic is, alam nung community kaysa sa inyo, kung ano yung kailangan nila para to alleviate poverty in their areas. Why do you even give them a menu?
Well, what you want to make sure is because they can, for example, national roads and bridges, that is to be undertaken by DPWH. Farm to market roads are better undertaken by DPWH. So we want to make sure that the menu covers within the capacity or competence of the community.
But I think they know that. Wala pa ako nakitang munisipyo yung nanghihingi ng pondo para magpagawa ng national road.
Well,
Wala ho. I mean,
there are some like big irrigation projects.
because I've talked to some LGUs and they're complaining about the menu. Na tali daw yung kamay nila, yung gusto nilang gawin, and they will not ask for money for a national project, na hindi nila mapagawa yung gusto nilang gawin. Eh, akala ko ba bottoms up to na, di ba, the the national government officials who simply sit in their desk cannot be in a better position to know what is the need on the ground than the people who are on the ground, whether it's NGOs, POs, CSOs, or LGU officials. So why the menu?
Well, as I said, if you look at the earlier presentation I made, we put a lot of emphasis on social protection and social services and infra, as well as certain industries like tourism and agribusiness. So we want to make sure that what is happening on the ground also impacts on the national priorities. Actually, I think that's really the. But if you look at that coverage, it's really a broad.
Just a
menu of
question na lang, Secretary, if I may, Senator Binay. Is there a process to appeal the inclusion of a project outside of the menu if what they need is outside of your menu? Or
Yes,
are their hands really tied to that particular menu?
Ang liit.
Yes, for example, in 2015, there is a process where you can, in fact, if it's very peculiar to the community and therefore they need it badly, then you can accommodate. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, can we get a copy of a hard copy of
It's part of the submissions to us in the budget documents. Malilit lang talaga.
Mali talaga.
I think it's in the BSF.
It's in the BSF.
It's in the back part of the BSF. Pero ganyan din kalit.
It's also in the National
Sinasadya
Expenditure
ho ba
Program.
talaga na maliliit?
Kasi kakapal eh. Ako ginagamitan ko ng magnifying glass yan eh. That's why so there are various projects na lump sum eh. There are some, di ba, Secretary, hindi naman siya naka-line item talaga lahat eh. May mga various projects eh.
What happened there was, because we increased the number of beneficiaries, but we more or less maintained the budget. So some of the communities are really still in the process of deciding. Kaya
May proposal ho from the, let's say the proposal came from an LGU. Kanino niyo ho yan sinasubmit? Sa DBM? Sa appropriate agency?
it's the agency that naturally covers the project. For example, it's an agricultural project, it goes to the DA.
Kunyari, I think kasama ho dito farm to market road.
Hindi na yata kasama as a rule, pero kasama yung mga local infra like access roads.
So may construction of roads ho.
Yes.
But I noticed DPWH is not part of the
yes.
13 agencies. So
Yes, because the DPWH requested us not to be included because their plate is full already with, for example, we have tasked the DPWH to do the FMRs, to do the school buildings, and to do the DOH
So for yung mga
facilities.
ganyang access road, who do they submit the proposal to?
If it's local infra, then they go to the DILG, I think. Yeah.
So pag mga construction, yung mga access roads will go to DILG.
Yes, yes.
And may specific amount ba kayo, like, kunyari, infra, yung a certain percentage of 20 billion for social services,
No,
let's say
there's
5%.
it really depends on what the communities decide. So, of course, our preference is for them to focus on health and education.
But hindi nyo naman nilimit to that.
Hindi naman because it's really dependent on what they agree on the ground with the CSOs.
And then ito mga proyekto na to will go through a bidding process.
Of course, there will be procurement unless the LGUs decide to do the projects by administration.
And is it possible ho yung CSO?
Even then, still for let's say materials, they still have to go through the procurement process.
And is it possible ho yung CSO will implement the project?
Under this instance, it's not. Although that would have been a good situation, like what they do with the Kalahi seeds, where the CSOs receive the money and implement the project. But in this instance, I don't think that's possible.
So ang CSO talaga ito does not receive a single amount.
Well, unless, for example, they are part of the implementation of the projects as, for example, the labor component, the farmers provide.
So in a sense, they can still get government funding through the implementation.
Well, it's not funding, but their wages paid or, you know.
Pero pwede din sila yung mag-supply. Kunyari, may mga feeding program.
Well, if they can bid for that's why we have we have included a new policy in the GPPB for community participation.